Hi all, greetings, and I am Rajkumar Meenakshisundaram, Business Head and Director of Agility Global Finance Shared Services, Chennai. I am a part of DLC's BFSI Chennai chapter. As a part of DLC's talks, I will be engaging with you on the topic of leadership and how the current leadership is changing, which goes beyond the boundaries of business outcomes and related aspects. Leadership is a journey. It is unique for all of us, and it's not in any prescribed space. Let me just give you a very short story on how I landed up here. In my previous organization, I was doing rather well. It was a large team, 800 members plus, and the outcomes were very good. One fine day, a headhunter calls me and says, Raj, I have a role for you that you could actually relish. So I said, okay, I'm doing well, but let's explore. Actually, when I started talking to the relevant stakeholders on the role, it meant that this role had a lot of problems to solve rather than take it to the next level. So this was something very, very different and unique, and it had an element of leadership risk in the sense that the outcomes that were expected was very, very challenging. So a smaller organization, a smaller team, but that aspect of what could be a very, very different challenge and what could be derived as outcomes that could add value to the business and the teams was what inspired me to take up this role. And then things never looked back. But what I'm trying to say here is that each leadership journey is unique, and the term leadership is also very unique. It cannot be framed into a particular definition. So what I have learned, my 2 cents is kind of enjoy the journey, keep a measure for yourself. What is the value add that you bring to the table, and how are we enabling the larger teams and the customers to achieve their outcomes? So that's basically the entire premise of what we will be talking. The first and the foremost of what a leadership or a leader should achieve or should strive to achieve is how do you bring large teams, definitely at a senior level. This will be large teams with very, very diverse attributes, different cultures, different languages, different geographies. Totally, the entire outlooks can be different. But how does a leader channelize all these different attributes to a common goal is what I think is the first and the foremost important aspect of any leadership role. So how do we kind of go about it? So first and foremost, clarity of communication in which a leader should address the team and bring clarity in the minds of people on how their work or their effort or their delivery is going to actualize into a common goal is very, very important. To summarize, the important first step under leadership role should strive for is driving common objectives in a very, very diverse environment. So with that, how does a leader harness his teams to high-performing teams? Let us try to demystify this a little bit through an example. Let's say there is a finance shared services, and we have different towers. There's a payables, there's a receivables, there's a GL, there's a financial analytics, and there's a treasury, and there's a collection. Some deal directly with customers, some deal with other stakeholders, some deal with vendors. But it is important that all these ingredients come together in a common recipe to deliver the final outcomes, that is customer value creation. So there is a very, very big responsibility on the shoulders of leaders to build high-performing teams. So how does one go about that? First of all, how does a leader build trust? So there is no one way to do it, but the most important aspect of a leader is to build trust, not only within his teams, but also with peers, with the larger ecosystem of the business in which they are operating, and with various stakeholders, be it customers, be it vendors, be it regulatory authorities, whomever it is. So that's the first and the foremost important thing. And there are a few questions that a leader should keep continuously asking. Am I being judgmental? Am I not making any judgmental decisions? Am I always objective? After all, at the end of the day, we are humans. So there is a lot of basic human natures that will crisscross when we are making very important decisions. Can a leader say that, yes, I have done a mistake, or my team has done a mistake, and I own up the actions or the impact of those mistakes done by me or the team? That's a very important attribute. And then, how much is a leader approachable? Can anybody come and say that, hey, look, this is what I feel, and this is what I feel we should be doing? So how much is there an approachability or a transparency with the leader? The most other important aspect, which I feel, is that how much is a leader enabled or able to remove any sort of bias? Another important aspect, empathy. Empathy is just not going and helping out, reaching a helping hand in every way, but understanding or putting oneself in the other person's shoes, looking at things with a larger picture. How do you actually gel with the team and make them feel comfortable, make them feel wanted, make them feel important, make them feel recognized, is a part of empathy. That also brings us to another important related aspect called emotional quotient. So how much emotional quotient should a leader display? A leader doesn't stop learning. So a leader doesn't mean that he has learned it all and the learning stops. A leader should learn as well as make sure that his team is continuously learning. So what is relevant 4 years back is not relevant today. What is relevant today may not be relevant even tomorrow, the way things are going. So what we read in the books, what was taught to us has undergone a 180-degree change. So how does the concept of learning integrate into the whole organizational DNA is a very, very big aspect that will bring out the powerful teams being able to deliver customer outcomes. Last but not the least, feedback. Do we consciously ask for feedback? Are we able to take feedback? Are we able to act on feedback? Are we able to give timely feedback? So these things are very, very important, and as long as the leadership is open to feedback, I think the half the battle is won there. And taking and giving feedback is an integral part of this whole thing. Once all these ingredients are probably thought and placed at the right quantum, in the right place, in the right way, I think there is a reasonable formula to get high-performing teams to align with the business goals that we talked about earlier, and then move on. But how do you make people accountable? So again, there is no fixed formula. There is no prescriptive recommendations for this. But one thing that I have found out that could be a useful tool is make people owners of their own outcomes. Make them feel empowered. Make them feel eligible to make decisions. Support their decisions. And in case something goes wrong, it's not really throwing them under the bus, but stand up and support it. I think that those are very, very key things that can bring the accountability from the larger teams. Another important aspect a leader always faces is how to lead in times of challenges and distress. It's very easy to be in a situation where things are hunky-dory, you just need to take it to the next level, and the headwinds are kind of normal. But it's like suddenly when a pilot faces very heavy turbulence, what is the confidence that he's able to give to his passengers is very similar to what a leadership would navigate through a distress situation. I can take an example. So the organization that I work for currently has been acquired by a Danish major. And unfortunately, Chennai is not in a part of their strategy. and we are closing down this center, which means that close to 500 colleagues will have to search out new roles. Fortunately, there has been enough time to do that, but the important aspect where a leadership shows its true mettle is talking to the teams on one side, talking to the stakeholders on the other side, there are customers on the other side, how to bring them all into a smooth journey that starts from a decision that is very, very difficult to digest, saying that there will be no more roles, into handing over things properly, professionally, at the same time looking out for better opportunities and moving ahead. Just let us play out this situation a little bit. On one side, there cannot be any lapse in terms of what we have promised to customers. They themselves are undergoing a change because of an acquisition. On one side, we have a huge team sitting in one remote location trying to deliver outcomes, at the same time transferring the knowledge elsewhere. There is also a personal aspect that needs to be taken care of. There are various administrative aspects. So this is where the leaders play a very key role in holding the team together, binding the team together, continuously communicating with the team on what should be their priorities, immediate priorities, short-term priorities, long-term priorities, how an open communication can help, rather than, I wanted to ask this question, but I didn't ask. So that's a very important role that a leader will play in terms of any challenging situation. It could be, enough has been said about the pandemic. I'm not going to go there, but it could be any business situation, loss of a key customer, or some personal situations coming up. But the basic principles remains the same. Be calm, communicate very clearly, be open, be transparent, earn the trust of the team, earn the trust of your stakeholders, earn the trust of your customers. And then once you get the basics, I think things move. Today, there is no real prescriptive formula that this is how you need to manage if this situation, because the reality is that we can't predict any situation. Leadership is not a definitive journey. Situations may unfold. Leading large teams and bringing all of diverse attributes into contributing to a common goal is different. Just beneath that, how do you bring or build powerful teams, make people accountable so that each person owns what they need to do? A leader also needs to know how to navigate through very distressing and challenging circumstances. And last but not the least, a person has to stay very calm throughout. I think every opportunity has to be looked as a learning and how best it can be implemented. So let me leave you with a few thoughts. The first and the foremost is that leadership is not about levels. It is about everybody owning their own outcomes, where certain people have more responsibilities than others. So make people owners of their outcomes. You need to challenge people so that you get the best out of them. So if you want the best out of yourself as a leader, then you should be completely open to be challenged. So what is the role of the leaders? So I feel that the leader is like a spectacle. So he needs to work with the colleagues and the customers to make sure that there is an adjustment, there is an alignment, and all the things are seen in the same way. And finally, it is what we bring as value to the table. Be it a person who has joined yesterday or a person who is heading the company, finally it is the outcome, what is the value on the table, that measures. And that is where the leader is tasked with a big responsibility of bringing all these things together so that there is value creation in the organization, in the ecosystem, and in the society as a whole. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's been great to interact with you, and my sincere thanks to DLC for this opportunity. Have a great day.